It's Wednesday here on The Story, and tonight we're taking an in-depth look at those deadly fires burning in Los Angeles. We know that many of you in the Northwest have friends and family in Southern California. There are 3 out-of-control fires killing at least 5 people, fueled by hurricane-force winds. And one such blaze already earning the grim title of the most devastating fire in the city's 175-year history. It's our big story tonight. The images out of Southern California are downright frightening. People there likening it to a war zone, calling it apocalyptic. We are now learning of a 4th wildfire burning out of control right now. In total, more than 23,000 acres have been scorched in just 24 hours. Well over 1,000 structures destroyed so far, many of them people's homes. A state of emergency remains in effect for Los Angeles City and County, with at least 70,000 people forced to evacuate. The state has deployed more than 1,400 firefighters, and Governor Gavin Newsom has deployed the National Guard. The LA Fire Department put out a plea for off-duty and out-of-state firefighters to help. A call that's been answered by first responders right here in Oregon. The state fire marshal sending 15 strike teams to the south, totaling 300 firefighters and 75 fire engines. The flames being fueled by an intense windstorm, with one gust overnight coming in at well over 90 miles per hour. All right, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Matt, get us up to speed on the winds there now and what is expected tonight and into tomorrow.
All right, Blair, those winds are still raging. They are beginning to back off in some areas, but not everywhere. Here are the current sustained winds. Look at these winds at Ontario and San Bernardino, over 20 miles an hour. It doesn't sound that bad, right? They are light at LAX. They're light at Burbank right now. But if you look at the gusts, they're still gusting well over 30 miles an hour. And these are at mainly valley locations. Up in the mountains, we're still getting gusts up 40, 50 miles an hour and even stronger. So that is the problem. Those winds coming out of the canyons and fueling the fires and then starting new fires as you get embers being transported by those strong winds, then landing in dry areas that hadn't burned and starting new fires. That's been happening tonight. Here's the wind forecast, and you can see it begins to back off. This is tonight. The winds are mainly going to be confined to the mountainous areas up in the San Gabriel Mountains there north of LA. And then they pick up a little bit again on Thursday, but down in the valleys, they'll be a lot lighter. So there is a little bit of good news there. So what are the Santa Ana winds? How do they form? Well, it starts with high pressure cold air east of the Sierra Nevada mountains, like over in Nevada, right? That air funnels through the mountains and it gets compressed and warms as it descends down towards the deserts where the air dries out even more. Then it makes its way through the very complicated terrain north of Los Angeles and squeezes through excuse me, those canyons. Dry air getting in my throat right now. Squeezes through the canyons there, and that's what causes these Santa Ana winds. Now, this event was a little bit different. It was compounded by very strong winds aloft. That just made all of the winds stronger and really, really tough to predict and tough to get away from. It was really widespread. Oftentimes, the Santa Anas are confined to what they call the Santa Ana corridors down there, where the winds really funnel through certain gaps in the terrain. This was more widespread, certainly yesterday. Now, look how far offshore the smoke has been blown, hundreds of miles out to sea by these strong Santa Ana winds. These are clouds, the brighter white. This is the smoke here. And this was earlier in the day. We've seen more fires develop since then. So if you're planning on or had been planning on traveling to Southern California, they're saying there have been delays at the airport. So right now, none of the 5 LA airports or Palm Springs are showing any delays at all. But I would definitely check your flights if you plan on flying to Southern California in the next day or so. We still have red flag warnings for fire weather conditions across much of the Southland here. We'll zoom in a bit and show you just the fire weather warnings. And then this is an air quality alert down in Los Angeles County, right? This continues the fire weather warning now in some areas until Friday night because these winds won't die down, and the wind advisory continuing at least until 10 o'clock tonight. So it's a bit brutal. But the pattern is shifting a bit. So the winds are going to change enough that these winds should be confined more and more, Blair, to more localized areas. But there may be more Santa Ana events coming up in the days ahead. We're still going to maintain the offshore flow in Southern California, even though it'll improve a little bit tomorrow. We may not see any really big widespread improvement until we get into the weekend, Blair.
All right, Matt, thank you for that. So tonight, we want to bring viewers as close to this devastating situation as we safely can. All right, so let's bring in All right, so we're soon going to talk to NBC reporter Jennifer Bjorklund. She's been covering this fire all day for us down in Pacific Palisades, California. We've been seeing video from there all day. The winds are just blowing so heavily. All right, she's out there for us tonight. Jennifer, what's happening on the ground where you are right now?
It's still a very difficult situation. As you can see, the glow of the fire is still behind us in the hills, and we really thought at this point there wouldn't be anything left to burn. This is where the fire blew through, blasted down the mountain yesterday, and then last night, overnight, back up the hill it went and around. It is leaving nothing unburned, and the fire crews are chasing it down as best they can, but they don't have a lot of the support that they normally would just because of the sustained winds that we are seeing that have really not let up. They didn't lay down overnight like normally they do, where they can get in and start cutting lines and use the choppers. That didn't happen. The winds were the most intense overnight last night, and they're expected to pick up again tonight. So there hasn't been much of a break, and we aren't expecting too much of a break in a real way as far as the wind speed slowing down until the weekend.
So Jennifer, we know the winds are critical here. What's different about this fire? We're hearing it's burning downhill in some areas.
Yeah, it's really strange to see. Normally what you would have, as we're standing here, we're on Pacific Coast Highway in the Baywatch, beach, right where Sunset Boulevard meets PCH between Malibu and Santa Monica. This is usually the safe zone. The fires, they stay way up on the hills. They start up there, they burn uphill with the brush. Even if the wind is blowing down, that actually can kind of help, because it tends to turn the fire back onto the part that's burned, and then it burns itself out. That didn't happen. The wind was so strong, and for such an extended period of time, it just blasted that fire down the hill against the natural inclination of fire to follow the fuel upward and go to the top of the mountain. So as it came down the mountain, it was chasing those residents down yesterday, and you saw they could not get out quickly enough, which is why they abandoned their cars, and the cars had to be bulldozed by firefighting equipment, bulldozers, so the fire trucks could get back up the hill and start fighting that fire. So very unusual behavior. We have seen it before. It's the Santa Ana winds that blow the wrong way, but it usually just lasts for one afternoon. Overnight, it changes direction and everything's fine. This has been 3 days of having it hammered, a night, a day, another day. It's been really, really rough on firefighters trying to get their arms around this fire and start digging some lines and containing this mess that's been happening up on the hillsides.
Yeah, it's unlike anything they've ever seen. What are you hearing from the community?
Oh, it's just a lot of fatigue, and what just happened within the last hour is a new fire in the Hollywood Hills. Now, a lot of people are just tired. We're tired. We've had smoke in our eyes for a couple of days, and we know that a lot of people might be sitting inside, maybe watching a little basketball. They've turned off the news. They just don't want to see it anymore. And now they're under evacuation orders, and people are coming door to door knocking because they aren't watching the news at the moment because it's just too much. So I think there's a little bit of fatigue. There are people who have evacuated once, gone to a safer area, and now they're being evacuated again to somewhere else because there are so many fires burning in this region. And even if you're not in the direct path of the flames, you're smelling smoke. If you have a smoke detector in your house, it's going off because there's so much smoke, just ambient smoke in the air. And the wind is so strong, it's blowing down trees and setting off car alarms all over the city. So it's noisy, it's smoky, it's a very uncomfortable time to be in anywhere in Los Angeles this week.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for your reporting, and stay safe out there. All right, so the flames destroying homes across the LA metropolitan area from the Pacific Coast to Pasadena, and they're also threatening highly populated areas like Santa Monica. Now we want to bring in Heidi Kim and Jacob White. They live in Santa Monica on the edge of the evacuation line, and their neighborhood is currently in a red flag zone. Heidi and Jacob, thanks for joining us under these terrifying circumstances.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So talk to us. Just how far are you from the fire? Can you see anything from your windows?
Yeah, we're a few miles from probably the closest fire. We woke up to lots of smoke this morning. It's been, we can smell some of the smoke inside our house, and a lot of our friends have been affected. So folks who've been evacuated, we have a couple of friends who've had homes burned down. So it's feeling very much like it's in our backyard today.
And earlier today we were talking, what is the wind like where you are? How is that affecting you?
It's pretty crazy. Like, it's very fast. I grew up in Southern California and I'm used to Santa Ana's, but this feels like of a different magnitude. Our house has been rattling actually, and it was pretty hard to sleep last night. So lots of like craziness, and we're seeing lots of random debris showing up where we live and things like that. So it's been pretty nuts.
How are your friends and family doing? Any of them have to evacuate?
Yeah, we've had friends evacuate. We've had friends who've had homes burned down. We actually had a friend staying with us last night who went into labor while she was here.
Oh my gosh.
And so she's safely in the hospital and all good, but like many people affected that we know. So we're just on our toes, seeing where we can be helpful and also have our bags packed in case we need to leave.
Yeah, and that on your toes feeling, that anticipation of maybe having to evacuate, how are you handling that?
There you go.
I mean, I think that we're handling it well. Like, we have good friends, we have family close by. So I think we're very lucky to be in a good position relative to many other people. So we're very lucky in just trying to help out all of our friends as much as possible.
What is it like watching those communities so close to you just get destroyed?
It's incredibly sad. I mean, it's such a beautiful part of Southern California, if folks in Portland haven't seen it. Like, in particular, that neighborhood is one of the prettiest in Los Angeles. So it's just very sad to see that it won't be the same way, or will be dramatically affected by this.
Well, we're wishing you guys the best. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please stay safe.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, let's get back to the response from Oregonians to those wildfires in Southern California. Now, like I said at the top of the show, 15 strike teams mobilized by the state fire marshal, 300 firefighters answering the call to help, as resources around the LA area, as you can imagine, are stretched incredibly thin.
They are getting beat up down there right now, and any kind of relief that we can go down there and help them with, that's what we're there to do.
So the situation you're seeing down there, our personnel have trained to mitigate structural fires, wildland fires, and that urban interface threat.
Okay, so we wondered, how is a response like this coordinated so quickly? Some of the behind the scenes that the public rarely gets to hear about. So I think joining us right now, Rick Graves with Portland Fire and Rescue. There he is. Rick, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Rick, talk to us. What goes into coordinating on the fly like this to send more than a dozen strike teams to California?
Yeah, things happen real quickly, obviously, in incidents like this. And when a governor declares an emergency, that instigates the ability to ask and receive help. So the Oregon State Department of Emergency Management received a request through the Emergency Management Assistance Compact. And through that, it provides the availability of multiple states to provide this aid. And in this case, as we see, it is a devastating fire.
So, Rick, we're hearing firefighters in LA are running out of water. How is a crisis situation like that handled? Can the Oregon teams help that in any way?
You know, the Oregon teams are going to combine the efforts with all other responders that are headed that way. And what I understand is the power grid is such that it's not providing enough power to pump the water to elevated fire hydrants or water sources. So in the event that happens, you know, there aren't fire hydrants out in wildland incidents anyway. So what is happening is they're utilizing a hard suction hose to draft water out of a still water source, a pool, a pond, a reservoir, or whatever, deliver that to a certain location to then be brought into the engines that are cycling through and utilizing their water on the fire. So it isn't an unheard of situation for a deployment like this to need to do a water shuttle. It's just rather unusual with an infrastructure like Los Angeles where they are to have this problem. But again, the power grid is down as a result of the emergency. And so firefighters on the scene are creating plans or chief officers are creating those plans to make a successful water operation occur.
And Rick, do you know where the 15 Oregon teams are right now?
I don't. They're on their way down. In order to cross over the Siskiyou Pass, all fire engines needed to be chained up. So they stop at the base of the pass, chain the vehicles up, go over the top at the speeds that a fire engine can establish, go safely with chains on, and then go down the pass and take the chains off. So my guess is they're going to get close to Redding today in hopes of arriving on scene around noon tomorrow at Los Angeles and getting to work.
Okay, Rick, thanks for joining us tonight. We wish all the firefighters a safe journey.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, so Oregon is no stranger to fires that devastate cities and towns. Just 4 years ago, the Alameda fires swept through southern Oregon. There's some video of it there. It destroyed roughly a third of the town of Talent, along with the town of Phoenix and parts of Medford and Ashland. 11 people were killed in the fire, and it burned thousands of homes and other buildings. Okay, so joining us on the phone now live, we have the mayor of Talent, Oregon, Darby Ayersflood. She was mayor during that 2020 fire as well. Mayor, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I wish it was under better circumstances. Very sad, very sad.
I agree with you. I have to ask you, though, how does it feel watching what's going on in Southern California and knowing what people there are going through?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's thousands of people displaced, many of them not going to ever be able to come back to the home, losing all of their belongings. We're watching the death toll start to rise. That's just absolutely tragic. And, and then the first responders get exhausted. They're heroic. There's not enough people. The high winds, the running out of water. It's almost just like the fire we had down here in Southern Oregon.
So I understand you have family in California. Do you know if they're safe?
Yeah, we've been in touch since this started, and they are safe. But what many of the folks who are safe are finding themselves, hosting people who are displaced and being evacuated. So everybody's involved.
So it's been 4 years since the Alameda fire. Can you tell us what recovery is looking like right now in Talent, and what can people in California expect when it comes to recovering from this fire?
Just days after the fire here in the Alameda, after the Alameda fire in Talent, we had some leadership come up from Paradise, California, who said, it's going to be a full 10 years. And we just didn't want to believe it, but that is exactly what we're seeing here. And it's a 10-year recovery process. The first couple of years are just about housing and transitional housing and shelter. But boy, when you start turning to your community for the rebuild, it's a long haul.
Yeah, sounds like a long road ahead. Well, thank you, Mayor, for sharing your insight with us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so when it comes to rebuilding after a fire, a lot of people are relying on their homeowner's insurance. But with the increase in fires and the increase in the risk of fires, some insurance companies are pulling out, saying it's too expensive for them to insure some homes. Insurance companies rely on wildfire risk maps to see where a home is located and whether it might be vulnerable to fire. In Oregon, the Department of Forestry released the final version of its statewide wildfire hazard map this week. Take a look. There it is. Orange is the highest risk. Green is the lowest. It's a project that has been plagued by controversy since its initial draft in 2022. At the time, homeowners said they were being dropped by their insurance companies because of the map. So the first draft was pulled and revised. A bill passed in 2022 prohibits insurance companies from using the map to determine insurance rates for coverage. But the companies are allowed to create their own maps. The entire KGW team will be monitoring the very latest on the wildfires in Southern California from sunrise to the 11 p.m. news, both on air and streaming. So be sure to download the KGW Plus app on your smart TV for 24/7 updates. All right, coming up next on the story, ahead of President-elect Trump taking office later this month, the Portland Public School Board voted last night on a resolution dealing with protections for undocumented students. We'll explain what it'll do when the story returns. The Portland Public School Board is reaffirming protections for undocumented students ahead of President-elect Trump taking office in less than 2 weeks. Trump has said he would launch a mass deportation effort, telling NBC's Kristen Welker that it could involve family members of those in the country illegally as well. Last night, Portland Public School Board officials updated a resolution in an effort to protect students, basically becoming a sanctuary school district on top of Oregon's status as a sanctuary state. All right, Celine Stevens has been following this for us today. Celine, walk us through what exactly this updated resolution will do.
Blair, so it prohibits the district from helping federal immigration enforcement in any way. So maintaining or collecting records related to immigration status or disrupting a class and taking out a student or staff member for immigration purposes without a court order, or even allowing those immigration members to go past the front office of a school, again, without that court order. So this all passed in a unanimous vote on Tuesday night during the Portland Public School Board meeting, expanding a prior resolution from 2016 following President-elect Donald Trump's initial victory. So I talked with a Portland State University professor who told me despite Oregon being a blue state and Portland being considered a liberal city, the fear of deportation still exists here for many.
And is PPS doing anything to make sure students know about these protections?
Yeah, they're letting students know. They're sending home letters and whatnot to families, and they're also not the only school district doing something like this. Beaverton School District, as well as Salem-Keizer Public Schools, have already had policies like this in place, and others, like the North Clackamas School District, are also working on similar documentation. In addition, there will also be training for school staff members to help them learn how to kind of navigate with ICE personnel. Some of those have already been trained, with guidance coming for the rest of those members who have not received that training. That's all coming soon.
Celine Stevens in downtown Portland for us tonight. Celine, thank you. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks for watching. After all the heavy news today, stick around for a pick-me-up with the good stuff coming your way next. And don't forget, you can stream the story on your own schedule. Download the free KGW Plus app, available now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. And I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.